What will you always remember the weird kid in your school for doing? There was this weird kid named Gavin who sat in the front row of my nutrition class. One day, he was not in class. He never missed class. So as the teacher is doing attendance, she asks, "Where's Gavin?" Just as she says this, everyone looks outside to see Gavin throw his backpack down a couple flights of stairs, jump down the stairs, and begin beating his backpack with a baseball bat. The teacher silently walked over and closed the blinds as the entire class burst out in laughter. Had to be one of the most hilarious moments in my high school experience. He put his feet up on his desk, suck air into his ass, and farted back out. One time he shat himself and ran off crying. Dude was in love with Misty from Pokemon. Like, one of the bullies made him cry by insulting her and shit. This was in high school. Eating a complete salad out of a briefcase while sitting in the bleachers during one of our high school's football games. Wouldn't stop asking us to join his investment club or become a writer for his investment website. Well, 4 years later that website got bought out for $2 million. Fast forward to today, he's got his own firm and parties with like models every weekend. Walked around the halls saying penis penis penis, or alternatively something that rhymed with that, such as smoke Mary Weenus. Smoke Mary Weenus, ate chewed gum off the floor. Called everyone he didn't like a squid. He never got picked on because if anybody pushed him or anything like that, he would scream at the top of his lungs. We had an assignment one time to create a presentation about what we wanted to do when we graduate high school. This kid in my class did an entire presentation on how his aspirations were to work at McDonald's whilst living in the Sumter eating the thrown out Happy Meals. It was really well put together. The kid was really smart, just also really fucking weird too. One kid in my freshman speech class was extremely socially awkward, so this was already just a perfect setting for disaster. We had to give a 1-minute speech the second day of class off the top of our head about some of the things we like, and present an item or two that symbolizes your passions and interests. He goes up there, pulls out a pack of juicy fruit, and just holds it up, pauses for a second, then said, "This is juicy fruit, my favorite gum. If you don't like juicy fruit then you can screw off." Then went back and sat down. Everyone paused for a secretary, looked around and just bust out laughing. It wasn't for a grade or anything, so I'm pretty sure the teacher just didn't care cause it was so funny. Thanked me for being kind to him in chemistry, then saying he will spare me when he shoots up the school. No, he never did. But that psycho is in the Navy now. After classes ended he would full sprint to the buses. He also wore a black trench coat every damn day. I live in a very warm place where the temps in summer are high 80s to 90s, and in the winter it usually hovers around the 50s at the lowest. So it was strange. He would throw a fit if he lost a game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Like he'd spit at the person who was winning, then take their backpacks and hide them in the bathrooms. One of them was found covered in piss. Then in the 5th grade he was suspended from school because he kept putting his hands up girls' skirts. When they didn't let him, he'd slap them hard on the face. He did not have any disorders that I knew of. He would play normally when we were allowed to bring consoles to school, but for some reason he would just lose his shit with Yu-Gi-Oh! As for the aftermath of the skirt thing, he was suspended from school, and his grandfather apologized for him almost in tears. 5th grade ended, and then we never saw him again. Using this service for the deaf/mute that would connect you instant messenger style to a representative who would then call and speak to people on the phone for you. They would say anything you typed outside of curse words, and would type the response back to you, and so on. One day this quiet kid brought in a printout of him arguing with this pharmacy about boner pills. Being 17, we all thought this was hilarious. The next day he brought in 2 other printouts. I remember one of them was with a travel service wanting to know how to get to butthole. Still funny. Quiet kid was in the middle of his 15 minutes of fame. The next day he brought in a few more printouts, but the effect was a little old. Dude kept bringing in printouts every day for like 3 months until the school year ended. Nobody cared anymore, but a few people humored him, since he was always so excited. We had this really odd girl who wouldn't talk to anybody but would instead hiss at them if they got too close to her. On one occasion, she was standing behind me in the lunch line and grabbed my butt. It wasn't like a quick grope or slap, she full blown latched on. The situation was really awkward because I didn't want her to touch me, especially my butt. But I also knew there's something not quite right with her, and I don't want to cause a scene. So I just quietly tried scooting away from her, only for her to scoot with me while still clamped onto my ass. Haha, she eventually let go, and that was that. That was the only interaction I had with her besides the occasional hissing if I passed her in the hallway. One day in language arts, some random dude said something about glue, and then he got up, screamed "got glue," and then hopped around the floor on his ass screaming for 4 minutes until he was forced out of the room. Mustard. This kid always ate mustard. On everything. Even just straight. I watched this absolute monster put yellow mustard on chocolate ice cream. One day a teacher confiscated his bottle of mustard he'd bring in with him, yes, to just drink during class, and a few minutes later we noticed he had stashed some mustard packets away, I guess for emergencies like this. I remember there was a kid at my high school who swore he couldn't feel pain. He was in my English class. We were challenging him on this subject. He proceeded to stab himself in the arm repeatedly with his pencil. Blood everywhere. Kid didn't even flinch though. I went to private school, and the weird kid in our grade spent every morning before class and every afternoon after class teaching the 2 parrots in our lobby to say "wanna get high." Yes, we had parrots in our lobby. After about 2 weeks, every time you walked past their cage, you could hear them ask, "Wanna get high?" Run like Naruto/Sonic. The kid wasn't exactly weird but rather misunderstood. Nonetheless, we were sitting in health class and the teacher is lecturing about how having multiple sexual partners gives you a high risk of contracting STDs. This popular kid decided to make funny a remark saying, "Well, I have multiple partners." So the weird kid goes, "Yay, your right hand and your left hand." It was audible enough for a lot of the class to hear, and I gave him a lot of respect. Even the teacher chuckled. He poked his bully in the eye, sending the bully to the hospital with permanent eye damage. The bully kept getting in his face, daring him to hit him, so he kind of deserved it. Don't mess with the weird kid. He used to go into the bathroom, get completely naked, and then proceed to wrap himself in toilet paper and walk around like a mummy. Kid in middle school hugged the bustiest girl in 8th grade from behind, fondling her boobs, announcing that it was National Boob Hug Day. School dance. One girl acted like she was drugged, collapsing and throwing up. After police investigation, it turns out the girl drugged herself for attention. Instead of walking, the weird kid in my school chose to army crawl from class to class for all of high school. Apparently he thought he was the main character from Metal Gear Solid. Kid I went to school with was a nice kid, but weird. Definitely had some form of special needs, but I never knew what exactly. I'll never forget the day I watched him walking down the hall with a Twix wrapper across his eyes, like he was wearing a Cyclops X-Men visor. I asked him why he would do that. His response was, "Well, I can see through it, so I wanted to see through it." Yes, it was translucent enough to see through. I felt so bad for this kid. He was bullied badly. The kids at school were awful to him. One day at lunch, I watched a giant Ashat walk point up to him after just sitting down with his lunch, grabbed the kid's backpack and also his Gamma Boy from the table, which was like the only nice thing the kid owned, threw it straight in the trash, and then dumped the freshly bought lunch right on top of it. That makes me mad just now thinking back on it. On top of the constant bullying he received from the kids, the teachers had a hard time dealing with him. They did try, but it was tough when the kid comes out of left field with things and had zero home support, and everyone knew his mom didn't give a shit about him. Wouldn't take him to doctor's appointments, wouldn't get him his meds, wouldn't do laundry for him or help him point with basic hygiene. She ran a salon and told him to sit in the corner and not bother her. He would ask for things like water or a snack, and she would just yell at him in front of clients, which is why everyone knew all this. To be honest, I was seriously afraid of him getting a gun and shooting up the school. My city was a hair's width away from being in the woods, lots of camo and country music, so it would have been not too hard for him to get a gun somehow. I was actually planning, based on his schedule, escape plans, and what I would say if I encountered him on a rampage. One day he knocks on my door, tells me he's moving down south to live with his dad, and he seems really excited. thanks me for being his friend, and wished me well. Then, a couple years later, he was visiting the area again, knocks on my door, and says hi, asks how I'm doing, tells me he was thinking about me. He tells me things were much better, that he was happy living with his dad, and things were better. If I were a betting man, I'd bet that his dad actually got him proper meds, and acted like a half decent parent to the kid.